Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. Hanging out with a couple nerds today. I got Nerdarchist Ted and our guest Brian Berg with TPK Games. Not to be confused with Total Party Kill Games. I had a bit of a brain fart the other day, and my fingers typed their own thing. Stuff happens. As I was telling these guys, I wonder some days I just wonder how I even climbed out of the primordial ooze. But thanks for joining us, Brian. As always, guys, just check the description and you'll find links to Brian's products and also his social media. Go check him out. Follow him for your 5th edition needs. And you do Pathfinder as well, correct?
Oh, yeah. We even shortly will probably be doing some Savage World stuff.
Oh, nice.
Now, some of the cool stuff. Go ahead, Bri.
Oh, I was going to say it might even go so far as to be unsocial media. I'm not sure.
It could definitely go that way sometimes. It feels like the more we're connected, the less we're connected.
Now, what I was going to say was, if you happen to be a Pathfinder and 5th edition player, some of the books that TPK Games puts out actually has everything for both games in one package. So it's a major selling point to some, and maybe a turn off to others. I don't really know. I thought it was a kind of a cool approach.
Yeah, you know what my philosophy on that is? Let's say you know how fickle gamers are, right? I mean, they are truly like herding cats sometimes.
No, I don't know what you're talking about, Brian.
Right. If you buy a $20 or $30 book and you're just like, okay, we are all in for Pathfinder. And then next week you guys are like, yeah, but I want to play 5th edition. So to me, it has some good business sense, but it creates a product that holds its value.
Good point. You know, they can bounce back and forth. They got the best of both worlds. It definitely works. So
I know for a fact some of our fans do play both games. So
sure,
that's why I was pointing it out. Go ahead, Dave.
All right, so one of the things, guys, if you go to nerdarchy.com, actually, I think I forgot to put this link in the description. You can actually find a review that staff writer Megan did, which she is in the chat right now, on one of your latest products, and that was the one that basically using your hit dice as a resource. Which the first place that I think I've seen that was in the Middle Earth game, and I think it's a great concept. Right now it's an underutilized resource.
So they already did that as well?
Yes. They stole your idea first.
Dang it.
We always have that happen. We come up with this awesome idea that someone else had first.
Oh, yeah. I've got another good story about that. I'll maybe save till later. But getting back on recovery dice options, I'm working on this campaign setting. And utilizing your hit dice as kind of like a inner reservoir of strength, that is where that came from. And I took it to our writer's workshop, which is something I do every 6 weeks. I get together with a bunch of other writers, and we kind of powwow. And our creative exercise was that recovery dice options book. We were like, hey, here's this really neat idea of a mechanic. Go.
Nice.
You know?
And that's basically where that came from.
Yep. And you know, I mean, I really like the idea of the book. You know, it's such an underutilized thing. And so we give all these tools and abilities to the game master and say, hey, look through this, find out what works best for your group, and take and steal what you need, leave the rest. So, you know, I think the reviewer made the comment, you can't just open up the book and hand it all to your players. Like anything, that's a terrible idea.
Well, and she also called out the fact that you guys recommend not to do that. And she's the first time we used it, we totally did that.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes part and parcel with your other book of 5th edition options, which is a whole other book of player options to give out to your players. So again, that should be something that you look through, you find out what's going to best fit your group, your style, and go.
Oh yeah, I love mechanics. I'm a mechanics nerd. So when it comes to like any new system or any book, I just instantly start fiddling with it, right? And so 5th edition, I love 5th edition, but it is a relatively simplistic game. And so I wanted to give it all these cool other options and things you could do with the game. But the one cool thing about 5e is you can change things, and it really doesn't totally break the game.
Right.
Pathfinder, the minute you change one thing, there's this chain of consequences, generally. It's a lot of fun to mess with.
Yeah, that is one of the things I really like about 5th editions. You have these big blocks that you can interchange throughout the system, which makes it a lot of fun to work with, and it also means like your choices mean more. Where Pathfinder it's a bunch of these micro decisions.
Yeah.
Where 5th edition is all macro decisions.
But those micro decisions are important because everything is correct me if I'm wrong here, Brian, but all of those things add up to, if you're not at your CMD, you can have a problem against this monster or that monster.
Yeah, but see, that you're talking about winning. I look at a game from the aspect of how much fun is it, how much feeling do I get out of the game. I do this a lot where I just literally tell people at my games, I'm like, hey, you might find something and say, hey, that's not exactly how it's done, and I do it differently because story trumps rules.
And that is a fantastic point, and that's kind of the way I kind of look at things. I think 5th edition is designed more for those that care about the story, and Pathfinder is those who care more about the mechanics and just the dice rolling and the combat engine of things.
Yeah, one thing I would never do is get in a huge discussion of edition versus edition, unless we're talking about that edition, which I'm not talking about that edition. But if I try and tell people all the time, they'll come to our booth and they're like, well, I've never played 5th edition or I've never played Pathfinder. What are they like? They're both fantastic games. And they really are. I'm not just saying that. But they have different value to different groups. Like, I personally love really low-level, gritty, dirty, dark fantasy. That is my jam. And so I find that Pathfinder is more high fantasy, epic fantasy, right? So to me, I loved 5th edition right from the get-go, and I've been able to tweak it to exactly what I want. You could do the same thing with Pathfinder, but it takes more work. So if you're playing powerful, high fantasy game, Forgotten Realms-ish, would that be an appropriate term? That's great for Pathfinder, and you're going to have a lot of fun. But if I want Thieves World, are you guys fans of Thieves World from the 80s novels?
Yeah, man. Grey Mouser.
That just screams 5th edition.
No, I totally get that, and but I feel like they both just draw different kinds of fan bases too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as I get older, I would rather just play more rules light. Like a couple weeks ago, I played a Rogue One game with Fate Accelerated. A couple of weeks from now, I got a Western game coming up with Fate Accelerated, and I don't want a bunch of rules anymore. I don't want to think about it. Like, 5th edition is about as rules heavy as I want to get.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I can have fun with any kind of game, but as I get older, like you said, story trumps mechanics, and that's what I'm more into. Like, can I do a cool thing? I'm probably not going to build like a super optimized character. Right now, in our long-standing 5th edition game, I'm playing a wizard fighter dwarf, and let me tell you, multi-classing, if you want a power game, isn't really the way to go unless you build to do one specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, being a wizard fighter isn't going to be that thing.
Yeah.
The fighter attacks better and the wizard casts spells better. You just get to do a lot of fun things and be cool.
Let alone the number of people who commented that, well, you should have taken fighter first so that you'd have the heavy armor proficiency. You went wizard first. What are you doing?
Right. You fool.
You fool. But I'm a wizard that fights. I'm not a fighter that wizards. So, they just didn't understand.
Mm-hmm. No, so I guess to go along with this conversation, obviously I love hacking around mechanics. And so in our campaign setting that I'm working on, and I'll talk more on that later too, but I am actively going through and just chopping the hell out of both systems. And my reason for that is I want easier gameplay, because it should be more about getting the people to the table and playing rather than arguing about rules. But also, I really feel strongly that the mechanics should lend a particular feel to the gameplay, so that in other editions of D&D that didn't sell as well or not as beloved, they felt too generic. The gameplay wasn't there to make you feel like you were specifically playing a certain class or a certain race, right? So I want all those systems to work very, very well together and make your game experience feel like it should, and that's probably one of the biggest things behind my design philosophies. So my cat here has decided that he has to show up. He's
Nice.
small. Go get down.
Everyone should have a familiar.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's my familiar. Totally. So let's see what else we want to chat about.
Well, do you currently play in Pathfinder and 5th edition games?
So, to my shame, and you're going to hear me say that a lot, I'm a busy person, and so running a business and being creative takes a ton of my time. Also, I sadly live out in the middle of nowhere now, and so it's harder for me to get back together with my gaming group. For a while, I was driving an hour and a half every 2 weeks just to game with my old crew. And now I do a lot of conventions. So I play while I'm at conventions and I run games. And my son even, he's now 14, and he's really into D&D, loves it. So I take him to conventions and we play, Adventurers League and stuff. He's not so big into Pathfinder. Go on.
Speaking of conventions, will you be at Origins?
If it's this year, probably not. However, I did talk with some folks, and so Origins will be on my list going forward.
Okay. What about Gen Con?
I'm getting officially married right before Gen Con, so I won't say no, but it's quite possible.
So, never mind. I will not hang out with you.
Sorry. But I go to a ton of conventions. We try and vend, show off our adventures and stuff, and sell books, of course, at conventions. And then for me, it's a lot of meeting people and hanging out, and it's a lot of family at conventions too. Not me, my personal family, but my gamer family.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we're trying to ramp up the amount of convention stuff we do. So staff writer Doug has twisted my arm and convinced me to go to Origins. Mm-hmm. And then, he'd asked me about Gen Con, and I was thinking about it. And I know a lot of people going there, so I got press passes to both. So I'm definitely going to be at both. And by the way, guys, if you want a Nerdarchist to sleep on your floor at Gen Con, just hit us up at nerdarchy@gmail.com, because I do not have a room, and there is probably no way of getting one at this point. So as of right now, I'm probably sleeping in my car. But yeah, whatever. I'm going to do the real experience and do it as like the Grateful Dead, in the parking lot sleeping.
Nothing like sleeping in your car in the nice August weather.
Yeah. I want to say my first Gen Con was somewhere in the early 90s. And I remember it was so random. We're like, hey, let's go to Gen Con, and back then you could just do that. And one of my buddies was like, I have to work this weekend. Can't do it. So we all gamed the night before, and we're like, we'll give you a ride to work. So
you kidnapped him. It was like a Grateful Dead concert.
Yeah, and we wouldn't even let him call until we got across the border.
That is awesome. You guys are a really good group of friends, sort of. So the only difference, though, with doing this and a Grateful Dead concert, now I'm older and I don't smoke pot anymore. So I will be aware that I'm melting.
Right. Oh, concerts. I'm a huge music fan, and I go from classic rock like the Beatles and David Bowie to 80s metal, and the cheesier the better almost. I love Yngwie Malmsteen and anything with real guitars. In fact,
Power ballads.
Yeah, my fiance is actually going so far as to get me tickets to Iron Maiden before we get married. So,
Oh fuck
like,
yeah, she's a keeper, dude.
he is a
Absolutely.
keeper. I'm telling you. Yeah.
You gotta like put like the the red ropes around her everywhere she goes. That's a keeper, absolutely.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, and then I'll even go so far as like a little bit of industrial, ministry and KMFDM managed.
Yeah.
That's
Listen, dude. For me, the height of I say this all the time, but the height of human civilization, late '80s, early '90s. After that, we've peaked. We should probably just end it.
right. Yep.
We need a new Big Bang because we're not going to do any better.
Well, we're certainly imploding now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still listening to Manowar and Anthrax and Body Count.
Oh yeah. He put out a new CD.
What's that?
Body Count has a new CD out.
Yeah, from one of the services I get, like they have some stuff and it's definitely newer, and I'm like, oh wow, is he still making music?
But and again, we're getting off topic of gaming, but I have to seriously give a shout out to Ice-T for Body Count because I love that he's forcing diversity and on people. Like I think the whole social experiment of heavy metal isn't just for white kids is genius.
Yeah. There Goes the Neighborhood, man. It's my favorite song.
Yep.
Copyright and stuff where I start playing it, but
Right, yeah.
I get in trouble with the wife because I play this stuff in my car when my kids are in the car and they're like,
oh man,
really?
How old are your kids?
12 and 16.
Okay.
Listen, guys, don't take parenting advice from me. I'm a horrible parent.
Me too. Yeah.
So, bad husband, horrible parent, subpar human. I do my best. Sorry, guys.
Oh well, good. We're on the same level then. I don't feel so bad.
So you said,
Dave.
You said last year you went full time with being a publisher.
Yeah.
For 5e compatible and Pathfinder products.
Absolutely.
Nice. So how's that journey been?
Oh gosh, what a strange journey it has been. So I guess I'd back up. How I started? Well, I started in the absolute worst way possible. I was one of those guys. I'm really headstrong and I'm confident. Like you obviously there's people out there who have depression issues, right? I am the opposite of that. I feel like I'm almost living on a mania high all the time. So I don't have that little voice inside my head that says, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that.
Wait a minute. So you're like, everything is awesome all the time.
That is not far from the truth. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, you know what? I should really start a company and make gaming PDFs because I think I have this really, cool, dark brand. And I had no idea what I was doing whatsoever. So we literally just made every single mistake along the way. The only good thing is that I learned from those mistakes, and I've persevered through so much time. And they say like you learn more from mistakes than you do from a textbook. So luckily, I've made so many mistakes that I'm very well educated now.
So
Nerdarchy, we've done so many 360s it's not even funny. But yeah, we figure it out. It's kind of how it goes.
I agree. And that's half the fun, is the experience of it. So I ignored Paizo's RPG Superstar because I'm stupid. I'm like, I'm doing my own thing. And then eventually you couldn't, if you were publishing your own material and your name was on covers, you couldn't even apply for RPG Superstar. So that's probably like the one best way you could go to get your name out there to the industry and to eventually write for Paizo. Didn't do it at all. Yeah. Instead, I didn't even freelance for anyone else first. I just went headstrong, both feet in the pond, with my own content. And to prove my lack of intelligence, I didn't know anything about publishing software, anything. I had to teach myself everything from scratch. So the fact that I'm even still in business alone is a testament to my insanity.
There's a lot to be said for being just a hardhead. you have to experience a lot of pain and go through a lot of things the hard way. But at
Mhm.
the same day, like other people other people will see a wall, and you just see a wall that doesn't have a door yet.
No,
Once I hit
that's
my head
very
against
true.
it enough times.
So it's a
Yep.
testament to your perseverance. That's what it is.
Correct. Correct.
Uh,
So
And these days, I have cultivated a very large social media following. Between all my sources, I've probably got about 10,000 people following us, which I think is awesome. And on top of that, I've been doing conventions since day one, and that was how we really built our audience. And a lot of it, I mean, grassroots. You talk about that. That is exactly how we became who we are today. I would probably put us very near, if not in the top 10 of Pathfinder compatible, D&D compatible publishers, because we've just been around for a long time. We've met so many people. People follow us, and I think they enjoy our brand.
I think staff writer Megan was talking to you, but it's hard to tell sometimes because they talk in the chat a lot. But that means you should just write your own textbook, is what she says.
Oh, the how-to manual.
Yeah.
That's funny because I've kind of joked about that. Somebody did that. I want to say somebody from Mongoose back in the day wrote a title called it was like how to be a publisher and so am I, or something ridiculous like that, right? But I did read that, and I'm not sure it helped me any, but there are things like that out there.
Yeah.
And
So
oh, go ahead.
So as a business goal, how many books a year do you want to put out? Like what does that look like for you?
Well, that depends, and that's a tough question because it'll be different for everyone. I always have this philosophy of trying to keep my books as inexpensive as possible. Like you'll notice that last one was only $15 in print.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our titles are probably 70, 80 pages and are only $20 in print. So I try to put out a fair number a year. I would say no less than 6 print books every year, and I'm trying to push that along further and further, right? Because I'm a gamer too. I get it that you can't afford an $80 hardback every month. In fact, many of us can't even afford every single splat book that Paizo puts out every month.
Right.
Well, Paizo puts out a lot of books.
Well, they really do, and like I've had this conversation before too. Is that I know I'm at the point where I have bought everything I'll ever need for Pathfinder, and from here on in, it really has to kind of wow me before I'll pick it up. And I feel that a lot of people are like that. The D&D market, however, is very, very open for people who want to create content because there isn't a whole lot. I mean, or there's a ton of it. Like if you go to DM's Guild, there's a ton of it, but quality, and experiences vary.
And that is exactly what it is. I was actually having a conversation with a friend yesterday. There's a bunch of places right now that are like, get this bundle deal, and $200 worth of stuff or $300 worth of stuff, and I'm like, but how much of that stuff is actually going to be worthwhile to the average customer? I look at all the stuff on the DM's Guild that say pay what you want, and I'm like, forget about what I'm going to pay for it. Is it worth the time to actually sit and sift through it?
Yeah.
So it's a major challenge. Yeah, there's plenty of stuff out there. There's plenty of options for those that are willing to sit and do it. But you yourself said you're really busy. I am as well. So it's like, well, I don't have time to sit and read a book for pleasure, let alone sift through an untested rule set and know whether I want to accept this in my game.
Absolutely. So,
oh, don't worry about it. I got this problem covered for both of you guys if you're interested. What you do is create a mildly successful YouTube channel and website, and then get a bunch of people to write for you, and then give it to them to read and put in their game and let you know how it went.
That's brilliant.
It should be super easy too.
Oh yeah. there was a question someone posted on one of my links. Eric Frankhouse said, after starting your own gaming company and shifting from part-time to full-time, quitting your day job, how do you schedule your work hours? What's the routine if there is one? So that's a fun question. And we were kind of touching on that earlier. So I'll
after you go with that one, I'll elaborate as well.
Yeah, awesome. So there's definitely a routine. And I may have said this earlier, but my fiance is a saint for allowing me to dive into the deep end and do this full time, right? Being a publisher is worse than just being a writer. I mean, I have a business to run, and I have to be a content creator if I want to get ahead. So I wake up super early, 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. most days. I have coffee, have a small breakfast, and then I turn on music. Like I said, classic rock, metal, industrial, something that's really going to get me going, right? Try to respond to all my email and contacts and things that happened overnight because I go to bed early. I'm old. And she gets up early, so we kind of go to bed early, you know? Yeah, and I have a Google Doc that has all my task lists on it. So every day, my whole day is planned out for me. Like, these are the things that I have to accomplish. I mean, have to accomplish in order to make things move forward. You know, I've got my must do, my would be nice to do, you know, that sort of thing. And that's just with TPK. That's not even in my personal life. You know, I always say too, tackle one easy project first because it builds momentum and a feeling of accomplishment. And then you can move on to your harder tasks with or without pants, you know? I also try and spend 1 hour a day building my skills, YouTube, audiobooks, or physical books. I'm also the writer's workshop that I may or may not have mentioned before in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And it's myself and some friends and some other writers who live in the area. And it's writing focused, but more gaming focused. And so we're all kind of sharing tips and knowledge and skills. And I'm teaching these guys things that I'm looking for freelance writers. And so I'm basically cultivating writers as I do it, which is awesome. And then, you know, I have to spend a good 4 hours a day creating something, but I have dozens of projects going on, and I'm even writing a novel. So lots of stuff going on. But write or die, man, that's a truth, because I have to work to earn money, and motivation is a key factor. So do you guys play video games?
No,
not anymore.
Okay, yeah, so I love video games, but I just don't have the time, you know? And if I allow myself to get sucked into a video game and I find out, you know, 47 hours later that, you know, okay, great, now I beat Legend of Zelda at 72, where did my week go? So, you know, it's all very important. And, you know, you have to reward yourself a little bit. So, you know, you tackle some big goal for the day, maybe reward yourself with, I don't know, whatever you want to do for 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, play a little bit of video games or whatever rewards you, but just know that you have to get back to business. So that's kind of my life in a nutshell.
So that being said, I've sworn off League of Legends because it was like the only video game I was playing for a little while because I don't have the time to dedicate it. And like you said, I get up at 5:45 Monday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Right now, I'm trapped in not trapped, but I'm playing in a game that I didn't realize when I joined it that it was that my players are all in Canada on the West Coast. So it starts at 10 o'clock and ends at 1. So I set my alarm for 8 o'clock when I'm getting done that game at 1 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And, you know, rarely do I just go right to bed after that's over. But I'm like, I have to get up and I have to get moving. I have to do stuff. And I have a list of things like, you know I have to have my 6 a.m. video ready to go out the door. I have to have my live chat for the next day set up. I have to, you know, set up the promoting of it. I have to confirm it. I have to make sure my the podcast for year one Nerdarchy is on the website and ready to scheduled to go out. Then I have to make sure the 4 o'clock video is ready to go out. I have to make sure the 8 o'clock video that is just basically an excerpt from one of our longer videos is ready to go out. I have to also go, all right, you know, what else are we going to do to move the business forward today? You know, how do we keep the lights on? How how do we make sure things like right now YouTube is messing with us because the advertiser pulling? So how do we make that a non-factor? I also go, okay, I want to set aside time to work out every day, just because you, like you said, you have to reward yourself, but you also have to take care of yourself, or you're going to break down and not be able to keep going. So, twice a week, I take kung fu lessons for, well, not kung fu, but tai chi. It is kung fu, but I ain't trying to fight anybody. And I try and schedule some time to practice my tai chi and hit the heavy bag and lift some weights and get back with that. And it's just nonstop, 7 days a week. You just keep going. And some days, I started at 5:45, 6 in the morning. It's 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I'm like, oh my God, I just want to be done for today. and you're not done, but you got to keep going.
Right. But you hit on some good stuff there too, is like exercise and getting out of the house, getting off the couch, doing something that kind of cleanses your mind away from what you're doing can keep it fresh and keep you going.
Yes, Chad in the chat is like, having started a small business and keeping up with just that is full time. Plus, then the grands and wifey, no sleep. Yeah, exactly. That's it. No sleep till Brooklyn, man. And it's just a matter of like how bad you want it. You gotta want it more than sleep and doing other things, and you got to make sacrifices. And when you start a business, that is another child. That's my third child. I need to make that work. Yep.
And see, a lot of people bash on this upcoming generation of kids, the early teens and teenagers now. They have life so much better than us. And I don't mean that derogatorily. I mean, they literally do. You can teach yourself anything with Google and YouTube these days. And so,
you shared that on Facebook yesterday, didn't you?
I did, and there was a reason for that. But my point is just that, we had to literally fight for everything that we have. And kids today, I think that they have access to so much more information, and I hope that they appreciate that. I don't think they have to fight as hard. So it'll be interesting to see small businesses in the future.
That being said, like my son needed to tie a tie. He's on when he goes on YouTube every time, and he teaches himself how to tie a tie. My daughter wanted to make us breakfast in bed, so she watched how to scramble eggs video 6 times and then made eggs.
Right.
So they do, and it's interesting too, because they don't watch TV like we did. Mm-hmm. They're just in front of their screen, and it's all YouTube. It's crazy.
Well, forget that on demand. Like, I want to watch this show. Well, I know how old Dave is. I'm assuming you're somewhere around the same age, Brian. Like, we sat down for Saturday morning cartoons, and whatever was on, that was it. Like, you couldn't be like, well, I don't want to watch the Flintstones right now. Well, that's it. You don't have more than a few options for what was there. Yep. So I find that amusing.
No, it's true. And thank God, because, if I was force-fed the same garbage that I had to, these days, you've got everything under the sun on demand, and it's fantastic.
Well, you know what? To bring it back to gaming too, like when we started gaming, it was like whoever you knew, maybe their older brother. I talked about this another thing. Like I would go to Walden Books and hang out in the book section, and that's where I'd get my D&D books. There wasn't even gaming stores, like that wasn't a thing. Yeah, maybe a comic book store that carried some stuff, and going into those places, it was like going into an adult bookstore. They were all dark and dingy and just depressing in general.
Yeah. But, go ahead.
But nowadays, kids just you can go online. You can learn about Dungeons and Dragons, role playing games. Like we have a series that we just recently started where it's just like an intro into D&D, and it's for newer players, and they're kind of breaking our balls in the comments right now because of the format. It's short. It's a sponsored video by Easy Roller Dice, and it's not our normal discussions. It really is just like some bullet points. If you're just getting into it, this is the thing. Check it out. But because we're breaking format a little bit on it, even though we put out like another 40 videos month or something. But you know, the point is, you can go online and find videos like that if you've never played a role-playing game in your life, or if you've never DM'd the game and you want tips on how to DM. There's so many videos. You know, you can watch games being played by professional DMs like Matt Mercer now.
Right. I think that's an interesting movement, to say the least.
And apart from all of that, there are a number of resources to find players. And if that's not good enough, you can just find groups that are all online. There are Facebook groups and everything dedicated to just, all right, I'm going to go do this.
What's your guys' opinion on virtual gaming versus tabletop gaming?
So we've got a lot of experience with both now. And I feel like they both have their pros and cons and merits. And I wouldn't want to, at this point, I wouldn't want to give up either. I enjoy them both. I can get into a 2 to 3 hour game online and feel completely fulfilled and got my gaming in. And I feel like that same game offline would have taken 5 or 6 hours. But at the same time, I enjoy that camaraderie of hanging out with people and having, actual interactions. But, online, I get the game with people I would never get the game with.
So I'll elaborate on that. As Dave says, you get the game with people online that aren't close, and that's why you're doing the online. But I feel that when you're having the online game, people have put their meals aside. There might be someone who might be having a little bit of snack here and there, and the more polite people, if they're eating something that's crunchy, will hit mute on their microphone while they do it. But for the most part, you have a streamlined experience. You have people that stay in character. There's less joking around, and you get that maximized experience in that short window of opportunity. Whereas when you actually get together with the people local, these are the people that you're going to normally see on a regular basis. So here you have the people that you're going to hang out with outside of the gaming table. So you're going to be concerned with, oh, how's the family? How's this? How was work today? You're going to answer those same usual questions that you would ask of anyone that you're socializing with. So, and then because you're all in the same room, there's more opportunity for gags and jokes and out of character from game situations. It's still fun, still enjoyable, but it can break it'll not break the tension, but it'll break the game a little bit because you're getting off topic from what the gameplay is.
You're spot on. I mean, that's absolute truth. Because I'm not near my gaming group anymore. The virtual option has become a lot bigger for me. And I'm okay with theater of the mind. I'm not a huge tech person, so I'm not like doing the VTT maps and all that stuff. I'd rather just have faces and describe stuff, right? But certainly you can. But I also really enjoy sitting down, snurfing pizza with my regular crew and making wang jokes. It is what it is. So there's pros and cons to both. And I think it's just really, really cool that we have that option.
Yes.
My son, like I said, he's now almost 14, and he has online friends. This was not a thing when we were growing up. I rode my bicycle, and specifically, I remember second edition, and I had like every kit book, every source book in this giant duffel bag that weighed as much as I did.
And you needed a wagon to pull it.
Oh my God, yes. And I had that and myself on a BMX bike, and I rode uphill both ways to my friend's house like every single day because we hung out. We were friends. We did it face to face.
All right. I gotta stop you here. Of those brown kit books, as you would call them, do you have a favorite that you still remember going to time and time again?
Oh yeah.
What do you got?
Well, if we're only talking the brown ones, clearly it was the Elf source book because it was don't even try to discount it.
Dave, you preferred the blue one, right?
No, there was a blue one that I loved a lot too. The Necromancer.
I wouldn't say I preferred it. I just spent a lot of money to complete the set.
Mm-hmm.
because I foolishly did not buy it when it was out, and then I waited, and then I went and bought it off eBay for like $100 or something, and
Oh,
then I
my.
later probably just gave it away.
No,
I
which
thought
ones
you,
were your favorites?
well, my favorite, which I still recall fondly, I still have it, although it's up in the attic, is the Monstrous Humanoid Handbook.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah.
I love going with the monstrous races. I was
Mhm.
actually having a conversation with someone earlier today. Like that's where I prefer, and I like getting into those kind of games because you can do things that are far more enjoyable to me, and like the power sets they tend to have are a little off kilter as well. So it's
Mhm.
like, all right, and if you have a DM who's going to really role play against that type of thing, yeah, you can't do it for every single game, but I like that option of, well, I want to prove that I'm not just a monster.
Mhm.
So that
Yeah.
was my favorite.
Deep role playing there options. Yep.
Yeah.
I must say, from back in those days, it didn't matter because I didn't get to use them because they were all player options.
Mhm.
I during the AD&D years, I did most of the GMing. So
You did half. I mean, you had Steve.
yeah, but he bowed after a couple of years.
Steve.
I think he had bailed, shortly before third. So I mean, you still had time. Wasn't all you, man.
It felt like it. It felt like it. So I was the most dedicated of the DMs anyway. Like
Well,
that back in those days, we gamed every Saturday, come hell or high water, and literally guys were scared to call my house to say they weren't coming because the amount of ball breaking that would ensue.
Oh, good. Good.
It got to the point. It got to the point. Some of them, I won't mention their names. Some of you guys may know them or may not. Would literally have their girlfriends call and be like, "Yeah, he can't make
Oh,
it,"
that's
which
fantastic.
did not help them at all.
No, no, no. Oh, that's great.
like, oh, he's sick in bed. He can't even get to the phone.
Right. Someone hit his
Yeah,
legs with a typewriter. No. We were talking about like the heady days of AD&D here. I'm 42, so I grew up right on the very tail end of first edition and early second edition stuff, right? And I love second edition. So, well, I did. To me, that's memories, right? Well, in our little small town of 30,000, we had like one gaming store, and it was amazing because atop this gaming store was an old apartment, and all the gamers in town actually pitched in money every month to rent this apartment, and we had our own gaming pad, which was paid for by dues. And it was the most unbelievable thing. Like, it was the cool place to hang out. D&D was a social activity for me. And if you know me in real life, I'm a very social person. And I swear that D&D helped me become more social, and it gave me so many friends whom I'm still really good buddies with today. It's like being in the Marines, those guys you've slogged through Temple of Elemental Evil with, they're going to be your friends for the rest of your life, So gaming has just been a really interesting thing in my life. It's given me a lot of skills. It's given me a lot of friends. So I absolutely love it.
So we're actually getting close to the end here, so I have to do roll call before I forget. And I already started it off in the chat. So we got Kyle from Jersey, staff writer Megan from Ohio, Lavoyer, South Carolina, California. We got David in Australia, Melbourne. We have Buenos Aires, Argentina in the house with Woodshot. We got Waycross, Georgia. That's not a place. Jacksonville, Florida with John. We got Rep Rock in Texas. We got Fragginator 1369, Washington State. Chad Lee, Utah. We got Paul Jamali. I could be butchering that, pretty sure. Pittsburgh. We got Illinois in the house. We got Norway, of course, Cleveland, Utah, Chicago, Seattle, Knoxville. Denmark, nice. That's the part I like. I love when Denmark and Sweden show up. I don't know why, but it just That just thrills me. You know what? It just says metal for some reason.
That's
I don't
right.
know why. We got Philly in the house. So I want to thank all you guys for coming out. As always, we appreciate you. Got a good 50 people hanging out with us today, so not bad for a Wednesday afternoon.
It's something.
How much time do we have? I still have some stuff I want to plug.
Oh yeah, go for it, man. We've got a good 15 minutes, and it's not like we'll throw you out right away. We just try and respect everybody's time when you bring you in. That's all.
Absolutely. So I was going to talk about some of my favorite products that we've ever published. I will very quickly just mention them, just because I don't have probably the time to go through and describe it all. But one of my favorite things that we've ever done, and I still use it every single time we play Pathfinder, is Laying Waste, the Guide to Critical Combat. I don't know if you guys have ever played with it or not, but it yanks all the ×2, ×3, ×4 BS and makes it much more flavorful, kind of based on Paizo's crit cards, only balanced and greatly expanded. So that's one of my favorites, and I get asked that a lot.
Oh, I could give you a product idea for 5th edition that staff writer Scott Garibay asked everybody about, and that is a NPC codex like Pathfinder did for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
It's not a bad idea.
He's waiting for the company to do it.
Well,
I ironically started doing that and put it up on the DM's Guild. The first one I did was called Guardsman, and I think it sold maybe 10 or 12 copies. And so I was like, okay, I'm never going to mess with DM's Guild ever again, because to me, that's not even worth my time. I sell so much more everywhere else. I just decided to let that go and not even mess with them. But might I do that as a print resource? Absolutely.
Cool. You were to say something, Ted?
There's actually a Kickstarter going for 100 NPCs right now from Limitless Adventures. So you could look to that one as a kind of inspiration, or even see all right, how well is this doing, to see whether that's worth your time to try and invest the same style. Because I know the 100 NPCs is nowhere near as big as what the NPC Codex was,
right?
From Pathfinder, but I know that one has kicks, so there's definitely a market for those interested in it.
I know the guys at Nord Games did something along those lines also. They did a Pathfinder and a 5e version. So they're out there if you look for them. Getting on to some more of my favorite things, we have an adventure called The Bleeding Hollow, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard that one or not. That was one of the first adventures that we ever wrote, even though it was not the first one we published. And it wasn't until Kickstarter became a thing that we got that on Kickstarter, and it really, honestly, launched our career as a real business. Because before then, it was truly just a hobby, and after that, it was like, oh, this is a thing now, So, yeah, the Bleeding Hollow is great because it's a survival horror sandbox adventure, and I mean, it's unlike any game that I've ever played in, because it forces the players to make really tough moral choices. And kind of a little bit of a spoiler here, the plot ends up leading up to a town that's been besieged by a Gnoll warband, right? Hundreds of them. It's way more than any typical party can deal with. So they're forced to use stealth and guerrilla tactics. Can they sit back and watch as villagers are literally being slaughtered like cattle and worse? What about the paladins in the party? What about the really good characters? Is this something that you can handle allowing to happen? So it was a lot of fun, really tough moral grit to the game, right? And we were talking to Frank Mincer and said, hey, would you be interested in maybe saying a little something about this? He's like, well, it's not something I normally do. But he read it and he's like, wow, I didn't realize people could do good sandbox for Pathfinder. So he wrote the introduction for us, which huge honor for us. Yeah, that's a very, very fun adventure. And I can tell you that later this summer, we're going to reprint it with 5e stats and give it a facelift. I'm very excited for that because that's so much fun. And 5e lends itself very, very well to that game.
We don't do a lot of adventures. We do a lot more homebrew type stuff, but that one does definitely sounds worth checking out.
Did you guys ever play our Geeks versus Harsh Reality game?
There has not been a lot of time for board games. I've got a stack of stuff that I've got to play at some point in time, and that's in the stack, but I haven't managed to do it yet.
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. Jim Pinto, he wrote the world's longest and most ridiculous dungeon, if you remember that one. I'm sorry, Jim. It was called the world's largest dungeon. He and I have a fun little... every time we see each other, we like to talk smack to each other, right? And one day we go, hey, maybe we should write a product. And we were thinking, well, it'd probably be D&D or something like that. No, we made a card game, plays like Cards Against Humanity, and it's awful and makes fun of all of nerddom. And it turns out there's a lot to make fun of.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah, like Ted, it's funny. Like Ted talks about like the games he hasn't played yet. He's spent like $5,000 on the Conan Kickstarter. Just kind of sitting over there.
$5,000. My God.
Every time I tell it, it'll be more. Eventually, he'll spend $1 million on that game.
Well, it's interest. Yeah.
So
can you share that photo that I?
Yeah, I will. I was just looking for something else real quick.
Go ahead.
Because you mentioned it, I wanted to pull it up. So let me show this off real quick, and then we'll jump to that photo too. All right. So I was implementing some Google foo while you guys were talking. Wasn't just ignoring you. But yeah, that cover is freaking amazing. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that was very early stuff too, So that's not even the final published cover, but it'll give you the interior will show off some of the art there, and it's nasty stuff. I mean, it's a horrible horror adventure.
I also I'd also grabbed one of your. I had also grabbed one of your bugbear pictures for the thumbnail, and that's a really sweet one as well.
Yep, that one's from the Slaughter at Splinterfang Gorge, which is a very iconic goblinoid adventure, both Pathfinder and 5th edition. A lot of fun.
So is this a finished piece, black and white?
Yes, this one's finished. Go ahead and open that up. So the artist...
And all right, let's see. Did it open? Oh.
No,
No, that's because I'm on TED. And there's that. Let's try that. There we go. You guys got it now?
No,
see the
sorry.
preview?
Yeah.
Oh, you see the preview. All right. Why are you now? Because. All right. Give me one moment. All right. I have it. Now I just got to get it to share.
We'll just see the reflection in your glasses, Dan. That'll be
Yeah.
good, right?
It's almost as good. It's almost as good. Here we go. I think we got it this time.
Ooh.
With some clicking around.
There we go. Okay.
I do what I always do. I just push buttons until it does what I want eventually.
So, can either of you guys recognize the artwork, the style, the artist?
I do not. I'm afraid.
Yeah,
that is Tony Sudlow. And at the tail end of the Greyhawk days and 2nd edition Birthright, he was their primary artist. And he and I are working on this campaign setting because his art is very dark and gritty. And it is exactly like when I close my eyes, he's the art that I see, right? So that particular image, the orc there, is one of our orcs. And my campaign setting, I'll just give you the quick couple sentence spiel here. The setting of Illuminter is a gritty, dark fantasy world of madness, horror, and loss. A primordial evil imprisoned a millennia ago beneath the surface of the world has twisted the inhabitants of the underrealms with its maddening dreams, and the repercussions of the unspeakable one's imprisonment still echo on the surface today. So, I've taken a lot of your standard fantasy tropes and I've turned them on their ears. Our orcs that you see here, they actually are lawful evil. They serve the god of tyranny, and they are out to enslave the rest of the world. It's a ton of fun, very dark, gritty fantasy.
It sounds like a spectacular place for a summer home.
Yeah, probably not. Our dwarves do not live below the earth anymore because the underrealms are so completely tainted. They've been forced to flee their ancestral homes. A lot of really deep role playing. We're going to do a Kickstarter, hopefully midsummer to late summer, to start this off. Tony's doing full color paintings of the covers. So again, me going to all these conventions and seeing guys like Jeff Easley and Tony Sudlow and getting to say, hey, how'd you like to do some work for me? I have a few paintings that they've done, originals, down in my basement. And that's stuff that you'll be able to see on books later.
You'd probably really get along with a guy named Brian Stillman, who's been on the show a few times. He did Plastic Galaxy documentary, as well as he's currently working on the Art of D&D Eye of the Beholder documentary, where he interviews all those guys, plus like anyone is someone who's done art for D&D since like the beginning.
He's
right.
talked to them.
Yeah, he's been interviewing with them.
Yeah.
So much so that like we may never actually get this thing released because he's still doing interviews, I think.
Yeah, well, he's clearly got the passion. Yep.
That and the tweaks, always tweaks.
Yeah.
Always.
And he's always buying the original art and collecting.
Oh, yeah.
Huge collector.
Yep. But yeah, we'll eventually. I'm going to give away a 20-page source book that gives an overview of the campaign setting and gives you those orcs as a playable race. And I'm doing it for sure in 3 different rule systems, possibly a 4th. I'm definitely going to do Pathfinder, 5th edition D&D, and Savage Worlds. And I'm looking very heavily at another horrible dark fantasy system that you guys might be able to guess. We'll see.
I'm not sure. I'm just not completely sure about which systems have OGLs.
That's the thing.
When
it would be a handshake deal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Because when you say Dark Horrible, I'm like, well, that kind of rules out Fate and the Apocalypse Engine. So so something else. But it does make me think of Warhammer a little bit.
You could draw some parallels to Warhammer, yes.
Yeah. So especially, I'm a huge fan of the Gortrok and Felix series.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely some dark stuff going on there with the chaos. And then you have all the chaos waste and different things. But interesting, very interesting.
When we're off the air, I'll share with you. I don't want to give any false hopes, just in case.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Right before the Kickstarter, there'll be a 20-page overview that I'm going to give away for free. It'll have a whole bunch of Tony's gorgeous art, and it's available to read now. I can maybe share that with you guys, but not the general public. And I guess since we're wrapping up on time, one last plug. Be sure to follow me, Brian Berg, and Total Party Kill Games on Facebook or Twitter. You can keep an eye on all the amazing stuff we're working on. I like to share, so.
Oh, he does.
As we work on stuff, I'm always kind of teasing out, little bits and pieces. And like I said, it's more unsocial media sometimes, but yeah, we're having fun. So that's the important part.
As long as you got the time, I'm not kicking you off. Joseph Brogan has a question. Is that Pathfinder or 3rd edition? I guess he's asking about the product you're talking about. And from my gather, you really just answered the question. Savage Worlds, Pathfinder, and 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep. And I guess I would just iterate that they will be my versions of those game systems. Certainly compatible with, but I will be tweaking the mechanics to fit the world and the setting because I want the appropriate feel. But yes.
So I can't let you go without bringing up at least one more topic.
Feel free, man.
Because you're a third-party publisher, or you're compatible with Pathfinder and 5e,
right?
And soon to be Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
But we just had James Sutter on not long ago talking about Starfinder. I know a lot of the other publishers are very excited with the release of Starfinder. What do you got?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I know that everybody has their niche. Everybody has their brand of D&D, if you will, their favorite setting, their favorite type of game. I love sci-fi. I was one of those people who got suckered into the Savage Worlds Rifts stuff because I love Savage Worlds and I loved Rifts, not the mechanics of Rifts. So somehow you were able to take this amazing thing and put it into a simple game that anyone could play. Sold. But to me, I think there's a ton of sci-fi out there already. So do I jump on the bandwagon? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. It really depends how much I enjoy Starfinder and what I see as a potential. I'm going to continue doing my own thing for sure. And, again, we talked about me being headstrong, right? Maybe possibly crazy. So, yeah, I don't know. I can only say that we'll have to see.
Interesting. All that build up for we'll have to see. No,
Yeah.
but no, I totally get it because if you're not feeling that thing, then why would you go there? Like you're doing your thing, you're in the fantasy zone. That's fine. I just know I've seen a lot of excitement over that. I'm kind of curious. I'm not, like I said, I'm not really into. I'm going to buy the book. Like I'm going to buy Starfinder, take a look at it. The art is gorgeous. There's Kickstarters going right now for that product that isn't even out yet.
Yeah, well, and that's an interesting topic too. I mean, if you look at Frog God Games Kickstarter, I haven't looked recently, but they weren't looking like they were necessarily going to fund. And I thought that was kind of telling because I think that the market is not ready for compatible publishers to dig into it yet. John Raced from D20 PFSRD, he's done his own version, and it's okay. It didn't terribly excite me to want to write for it because, again, I want something that's really compelling. I want something that really just punches me in the mouth and goes, "You got to do this." You got to just have to. Ted, you were talking about that monstrous handbook, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when you look through those pages, some of that stuff called out to you and said, look, you have to play this. Here's this role-playing opportunity. You have to do it, right?
Yep.
And so you did. You scribbled down tons of characters probably from that book. And
I don't know how well you remember the art, but there is a page in that book that is awesome that I still can picture to this day that is not a playable race in that book.
Really?
Remember it?
I don't.
At all? Okay. It looked like a crossbreed between a lizard folk and a dinosaur that was not one of the Saurial options, wasn't a lizard folk, and like it inspired me like, oh, I'm just gonna have to make this on my own, and but
it was just totally lizard folk reskinned, man.
Yeah. That's what happens when artists don't exactly follow the details that you give them, and you're like, damn it, I still have to put this in the book, but now people are gonna be pissed. But no, I'm going to wait and see if. Sorry about the dogs. Hey,
it's defending the castle.
Right. I hope that there's some really compelling stuff in there. I know the guys at Paizo. They're studs. They're great designers. They make awesome looking product, and I know that they're going to put good stuff together. But because I haven't seen it, I've only seen like an image. It's hard to say.
Yeah, the Frog God Kickstarter hasn't even hit the halfway mark with less than 2 weeks to go.
Mm-hmm. Hey, hold on one sec. I'm going to look into the camera here. By the way, if anyone at Paizo is looking, you could send me a copy of the PDF or even just the bare bones rules right now.
Yeah, I will say too that like we look at the Frog God Games Kickstarter and the artwork is freaking amazing.
It's gorgeous.
And it really does kind of stay with the theme that Paizo has already put out for Starfinder, which is really intriguing. Now it's just a matter of when I get it, like am I going to be into the rule set enough to want to play it? Like I want to play it, but will I want to run it? Like that? Like that's the real test.
Yeah, and many of us have just gobs of books that we own because we love and we want to support, but might never play. And I hope that this is not one of those things. It launches a whole new Pathfinder Society option for Paizo. It's going to give them a whole new product line. It's a genius move on their part. I don't necessarily need more steampunk. I don't necessarily need more zombies. I don't necessarily need more pirates, you know? So to me, sci-fi is just another one of those things that it's coming full circle again, and there's going to be a big glut of sci-fi as everyone tries to ride the wave of Starfinder. So,
we actually backed Savage Rifts as well. And we kept the PDFs and handed the physical books over to our staff writer Scott, who runs a lot of games for us. So in the near future, we'll probably play that. We have like 3 in-person regular games that going on, and 2 of them are 5th edition long-term games, and the 3rd one are these short arcs that Scott runs for us, and we just jump from system to system. So, you know, we're playing Gamma World now. We just came out of Shadowrun using the Cypher system. Before that, it was Star Wars from Fantasy Flight Games. So, you know, I imagine Savage Rifts will probably be in there somewhere at some point.
Yeah, it's good. It really is good. I don't know if you guys have messed with it enough. To this day, I'm astounded how they took something so ridiculous and complex as the Rift system and made it so simple to play and kept all the flavor. You know, that's like, I was at a convention not too long ago with Sean Patrick Fannin, who was one of their project leads for that game, and I had to congratulate him. I'm like, dude, you know. How do you take something so crazy and you guys did such a good job of it?
So how balanced is it now?
It is. You know, what they did was genius. They have different variations of characters. So I think they call them iconic frameworks.
Okay.
And what that is it's basically a template that you slap down and you get all these things, right? And then in the real system, the Palladium system, you could be a walking tank with a gun that incinerates anything that moves, or you can be the dirty bum with a pocket knife. All right, totally balanced, right? Okay, wink, wink. But now these iconic frameworks allow you to say, okay, I can be this framework of the juicer and have all these abilities, or I can be this experienced nomad who has all this skill behind him, you see? So your starting characters might have a leg up on your average straight out of the book Savage Worlds character, but that then allows them to be more balanced compared to these hyperhumans, you know? It's really well done.
I'm excited to check it out. It just comes down to what you already said. There's so many games out there, so many things we want to support and play, and just not enough time.
Yep.
Unfortunately. All right, I guess we're going to wrap it up. I mean, we're probably going about an hour and 15-ish now, and we appreciate you coming out and hanging out with us. You got an open invitation to come back anytime you want. Guys, check out the description. You can find links to Brian's social media for TPK Games, as well as links to buy his products on our Drive-Thru RPG. I always want to say it backwards for some reason, as well as Amazon. They are affiliate links, so Nerdarchy will earn a small percentage of that. As always, if you buy something through us, we probably get paid somehow. Disclaimer. With that, guys, until next time, stay nerdy.
Thank you.